bring it back to looking new.
We already did
I haven't
that.
even seen it, but I saved a lot of toilets. I didn't have to spend money on
Yeah.
and bathtubs.
Well, I agree with you, Terry. The thing is, we could put things off thinking that, and maybe for good reason, but then again, we don't do anything. We get our hands tied if we say, well, we don't want to throw money away because we might spend 100,000. But then we could just put 8,000, 10,000 in the bathroom and make it look great.
That's,
But I
that's an endless debate that my parents have had for 30 years of home ownership is, do I upgrade this thing or do I,
Yeah.
because I'm gonna have
In
to
the
throw it
interim,
out and
we have
then
a
do that,
substandard
so.
bathroom that I
Right.
don't feel
So-
anybody should walk into or use.
Well, here's a
That's my
suggestion.
point.
Here's a suggestion for everybody on this board. Why don't, at your own leisure, go look at the bathroom at Station 1 someday. I'll do the same. And come back to another board meeting and with a little more education.
There you go.
I think.
So I would just, just to bring this back, is this gonna impact what we are putting in our budget today? Okay.
Yeah,
so
I guess
just-
my suggestion would be is the board would be empowered to make a budget amendment
Right.
when the decision is made that it's appropriate to take whichever course of action you choose at a time next year.
Thank you.
Right.
Appreciate it.
I just have one question. Do you firefighters try to shower there to clean off
I
all the
don't-
residue?
I don't know of anyone who has at Station 1.
Anytime lately.
Is that a choice? Is that intentional?
Yeah.
I would.
Yeah,
Okay.
why would they shower right away? They need to get that stuff off of themselves. It's cancer making materials that they're dealing with all the time.
If I was working there, I would drive to my home and use the restroom before I would use that restroom. That's, to me, a couple of $1,000 to get a committee together, try to, see what we can do in a property management mode, minimize the expenses and, for next year. So thank you for listening to me and understanding where I was going with that.
We get back,
Champagne.
That's right.
can we get back to the budget?
No, Meredith has something she might want to ask.
We
Oh,
do have a public comment period. I do want to be clear on that. Yeah,
Thank you.
there's so.
Well, I have some specific questions about some of the budget items.
Okay.
Is that appropriate now or? in
That's what the public
comment?
comment is for. So, yeah, it's specific to, this is a public hearing on the budget. So, and I think we're not gonna vote on anything until there's the public comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
So,
I'll wait.
well, actually, I don't,
I think it's ready for a public comment.
yeah,
I've concluded unless Chris has something.
I'm doing my best to answer your questions and kind of address points as they're brought up. And that's what I'm here for today.
and I was gonna say, if we just want to move to public comment, I'm fine.
Yes.
There's also, y'all are here. We might as well just have the dialogue. I think. it's
Sure.
actually going.
We've already started.
Go ahead.
Okay. So,
Meredith.
I don't think so. Let's talk.
Okay, well,
So-
some of it is- I don't even know. But what are suppression supplies?
So that was, that line item in the past was miscellaneous. It's firefighting stuff, but it's specific to fighting fire versus rescue and EMS equipment. So that's breaking out, that was in the previous year's budget, a foam purchase. The intent next year is now we have a place to adequately capture nozzles, fittings, hoses, that kind of thing. So direct fire suppression goes there.
I was just comparing it to last year's budget.
Yeah. Last year that was, or this ended up as a kind of an unplanned expense this year for foam that I don't think there was another place that it was captured. So that's why that new line appeared over the year.
Okay, so my next question is, there is no line item for mileage reimbursement. Isn't that fairly dependent on who gets hired as chief? And shouldn't there be something in there just in case?
Possible it got missed.
I think the budget for mileage reimbursement.
It might have been that.
yeah.
What
So-
about other firefighters taking their personal vehicles?
That is
That's
the,
stipend.
That's the
yeah,
se- okay,
that's a
all right.
separate line
Okay,
item
sorry.
for
I missed that.
recruiting stipend, yeah. Or not recruiting stipend, it's the incentive program, I believe is what that's called.
Okay.
That has a substantial increase.
Um,
Read the number too, Meredith, when you
Pardon?
state the number, it makes it
Oh, the
easier.
number, okay, well, I wish I had lines across that a little bit.
Yeah,
so I could
well, close to the
figure
number.
out What number belongs to what number figure, okay. So election expense, 618. Looks like it's increased by $2,000. Is that a reasonable amount for inflation? I mean, the previous year's budget was 8,000. Did it cost more than that to
Yes.
run this election?
Yes, it was $11,000.
Okay. And then, 24.01, property and casualty insurance. There's a big change in that. How come it's $5,000 more?
Sorry, can you say that number again? 624?
6429.
24.01, property and casualty insurance. If I'm reading.
Oh, yeah, they're not in order. That's right. That's what confused me.
You want this, it's in order on here.
Yeah, I've got the.
In that.
Well, when we discussed it that night, Meredith, we looked at numbers and we looked at bills. And to ask right now the specifics,
Okay.
it might be hard to answer the question, but Dave, Chris and I were looking at the bills. We didn't just pull those numbers out of the air.
I think it was
So I
fractured.
guess the problem is, this, I was comparing to.
I know
did
why.
not have this cross.
I remember why now.
sheet.
It's the accidents, it's the car accident. We had some damages we had to pay.
Yeah, that's right.
No, that's
But we wouldn't
the,
budget for that
the
next year.
vehicle.
No, it wouldn't be, that would be additional.
You think?
Yeah, so like looking at our, in category 602, vehicle repairs and maintenance 602.4, our actual this year is 16,000. But that includes the 6,000 or so payout or
Okay.
whatever the damage amount was. So our 15,000 budgeted for this year is actually a more significant increase than it looks.
But the 624.01 only went up about $1,000.
Yeah, I was comparing to the budget for last year, which was a mistake. I did not have the other numbers.
Yeah, because it's 7,500, last year was 6,400.
Yeah, or that's our year-to-date expense is
Okay.
64,2910. So next year planning for 7,500.
And then I have just a curiosity question. What is net other revenue?
What number is it up top on the very first
It
page?
doesn't have a number.
Yes, that's
It's
right.
at the very end,
bottom.
net other revenue.
Doc, this is complicated. Do you remember what that, this is the bottom of everything.
Yeah, I mean, the accountants have lines in to catch other revenues that aren't tax revenues. And this line looks to be the difference between the anticipated accelerated interest capture on the city, which is going substantially.
Okay.
And so that's referring to the growth of that particular line.
Interesting, okay. That's all my questions. There you go.
Yeah, I had a question, just, I see station 3, utilities and maintenance at 614.54.
Yes.
It's $3,300. And there's also already a repair and maintenance line, 614.51 for station 3.
Yes.
And so you have a specific plan of how this 3,300 plus 1,100 is going to be spent?
Correct. So that 1,100 is for what would be kind of ordinary discretionary maintenance. You know, more mouse traps, I think is mostly what that is. The 3,300 principally towards then the propane, electric, that sort of direct utility cost. The fact that it says maintenance in there is probably unnecessary. It should, well, we've got a separate gas and electric line.
Wouldn't it be the roof that
I
needs to
think
be
that's, I
repaired?
think that's in there.
Okay.
Yeah, the roof does need
So
to be
should that
repaired.
614.54 be struck? I mean, because we've got similar value in 61455.
But you do
It's
need
been
to
over
repair
years.
that roof.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but that'd fall into a capital expense.
Okay,
Or
thank you.
repair and maintenance, which is,
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
I mean, there are some peculiarities in that number that we've got like $1,100 for a number of line items and 4,400 for like, so like 61430 is 4,400. They're just, the numbers just seem a little curious to me.
yeah. I think the 1100 is our kind of default default value for stations, and that's just been kind of the tradition that is held.
Okay.
Like looking at kind of some of these numbers for previous years.
I might be able to help clarify
Please.
that, at least as of September. The 1,100 was roughly 1,000 budgeted in the previous year with a 10% inflation adjustment, and all of them ratcheted up 10% that were going to be subject to those tax effects.
That makes perfect sense on the 3,000 on the 3,300. Just okay.
That's right. Thank you. Very glad you're here today.
And so just because I don't know about what this line number 619 contingency is for, what is that $14,475 for?
I think just general unallocated contingency for, well, a
For
rainy
whatever.
day. Yeah,
It's literally, it's not allocated to anything. It's, we might need, like, someone might wreck a truck again, right?
Yeah.
And
So it fairly well offsets the 20,000 that you're taking out of the savings.
what did we hit on contingency last year?
I think our year-to-date on contingency actually doesn't capture.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Because it would have been coded somewhere else.
Yeah, it
Okay.
doesn't get coded against contingency. I think if we look at our total like delta this year, that'd be the way to do that.
Most
I can't
years
do that math in my
we've
head.
come far enough under budget, that we haven't hit that contingency, but that's a state/law.
Yes, they require.
Yep, the Tabor
So you
Reserve.
have to take roughly 5% of your income, and they want to see that set aside for unspecified needs.
I understand.
But typically, we
Annual
are not
rainy day.
drawn down on.
I see.
Okay.
I mean,
That's good.
honestly, like looking at how we're coming in, what, 50K under 2 years ago, 85 under last year, and this year so far 53 under. I don't know that we're,
That's why the 20,000.
yeah. Even with 20K in vehicles, we've got 20K budgeted to come out of our reserve, 14,000 in contingency. I think we're gonna be all right.
And I think that would be that 14,000 would be a great starting place for a Station 1 interim remodel.
That's gonna be a heck of a bathroom.
Gold plated.
Gold-plated bathroom.
Well, the thought is, as soon as you open the box, you're gonna find 3 or 4 other things that need to get fixed. So it'll-
Mary?
Oh, you didn't really answer the question about what's the difference between 3,300 for utilities and 3,300 for gas and electric? I mean, gas and electric is the utilities, right?
I think the answer to that is that line doesn't need to be there. And that's a duplicate.
So you could save $3,300.
Go.
Yeah.
Finding that money.
No.
There you go.
We are gonna adopt this resolution tonight, so I do want to make sure that we confirm that it doesn't need to be there.
Or we just leave it there and let it be for now,
That's kind of where I was.
as
going.
opposed to trying to make a big change and having to do this all over again between now and next Thursday.
I agree. I don't think it's gonna get spent there, to be honest, so.
Is
So
there,
it's almost
Terry?
Another
Terry?
There's another
3,300
in
contingency, if you will, right? We're not gonna touch the
We
line.
still have a bathroom roof that needs to be replaced over there.
Yeah,
so
there's a
there's
lot of
some
work
things
still to do at
that
Station
need to
3.
be done at three, so
Yeah.
I like
Oh,
that,
yeah.
yeah.
So it should be information.
I think maintenance is it's like the capital, big maintenance versus small maintenance.
Terry?
Thank you.
530.2, the recognition expenses. Last year we had 1,900 and some change. This year we're down to 500. Is this the recognitions for the firefighters?
Yes.
That I would I would like to see that back up there.
We discussed it the evening at dinner, and there was a reason we came up with 500. I don't have it fresh in my head right now, but we discussed all this that night. There was some pretty big awards given out at that one point in time that didn't feel like they were gonna get duplicated again.
So looking at, column 3, that 1912.70 was basically, we gave double or more than double the number of awards last year than in previous years because we were catching up for service awards that weren't given. So this budget line item is for kind of the standard, the 4 normal awards that are given. I think that's where that goes, plus kind of odds and ends, unit citations, things like that. So it should be a lower cost than last year.
But
I'd be happy to spend more than
because we're
$500.
about to have the awards banquet this early January. And I think it's very important for, your firefighter of the year, your rookie of the year. I know the cost of some of those things. I also think that maybe the auxiliary does not give out hats or T-shirts with Golden Gate Fire. We don't do that type of product for the firefighters. So I really think that's important to give the firefighters these small little
Are
things.
those budgeted?
And I think it's important to recognize them a little bit more than $500.
Doesn't
I
the
know.
auxiliary cover
Clothing,
considerable amount?
so clothing is covered in 600.05. So we have $1,000 budgeted towards clothing. That is the uniform T-shirts, hats, that sort of what firefighters are expected to wear.
Right.
Plus PPE is budgeted at 8,000. I think we capture some of those direct, what we're wearing, what we're using, and then that 500 is here's a medal for good work. Medals cost, I think like $4 on Amazon is what I was seeing. So
All right, well, I've seen chief's hats, for retired, I've seen an axe before,
Yes.
which one of our, and I think that is so important for them to take it home, put it on their wall, Golden Gate Fire Department. It's morale.
and I think the other subtlety to that is there is now a policy on paper for when members separate, keeping certain items that are personalized or that are important. So when a firefighter retires, they keep their helmet, the shield off of their helmet, the badge, the flap off the bottom of their coat that has their name on it.
Okay.
So quite frankly, the things that are meaningful to me as a firefighter that I wore to do work, those are PPE expenses.
Okay.
So we're capturing
I
that.
just don't want to shortchange.
No,
no.
the
I feel really good. It's like, this is a good thing to be arguing about. Is how do we recognize people better?
to me, the recognition doesn't have, it doesn't mean it's something huge and big.
Right.
It's whatever is said and what it's for. So it got a little out of
All
control.
right, so if
Yes.
we spent $1,900 last year and that was for 2 years, and that tells me it was $1,000 for each year. I'm just saying.
Well, that was, Garrett, I think that was your big silver axe. That
Lori's.
was Lori's
Okay.
axe or something like that. I think those were
Big items.
really
So you're just
expensive.
saying this year, there's not gonna be big awards that need to.
We're
be-
not planning on any big awards. this
Okay,
year.
all right, thank you very much. I just. wanted
Garrett, I
to-
saw your hand up. I didn't.
Right.
This was a deferred thing from COVID.
Yes.
When we couldn't
Yeah.
have an award ceremony,
Mhm.
and they had to kick the can down the road, and then they tripled their budget for making up for that also, so pretty important people, I'm gonna.
Yes.
Yours,
Yes.
Left, okay, there were awards for frankly with the 30 years,
Right.
30 years, this doesn't happen every year.
Okay, thank you. I
It
appreciate
would be awesome if it did, but
Yeah.
it's unfortunately.
I appreciate your time. Thank you.
And
Mary.
yes, I would just wanted to add, yes, auxiliary is there for some additional clothing items perhaps, or something of that nature. We're working with them with
Nicole.
Nicole.
Yep.
Nicole. We're working with Nicole right now on some exercise items and so forth. So we are there. We still have a little money. We're planning to spend it yet this year.
Thank you.
Dave?
So I want to add my thank you to NIFIs, to the board for working on the budget, the planning, the documentation, communication, collaboration. That takes a lot of work to put together to a good project. So thank you guys for doing it. I did appreciate the opportunity in September while transitioning out of the treasurer's role in the board to help set up the framework in QuickBooks, but to be clear, I have not been part of that discussion.
No, you've been very supportive, Dave, and you know that because I've been bugging you.
I also wanted to thank Chris and also Lieutenant Patton. There were a couple of years of hard work that the board had put in on planning for the Station 1 remodel. It did subsequently grow cost estimates, but the idea was, the goal was to improve service in the community, to enhance training opportunities, to improve the recruitment and retention, as well as our public perception of things like quality of facility. So it's, that was a prior priority. The question for the board is, a budget is really an expression, quantitative expression of the district's mission, its goals, its aspirations, and especially in areas that threaten us critically, like wildland fire safety and service levels. I'd love to hear how this board feels the budget reflects your priorities in getting those things done.
I'll start with limited knowledge of how the budget was developed. I love hearing that we're going to increase our spend on a utility vehicle that's going to help us reach areas that are going to save people's lives. I love hearing that. That's what I want to do. I think our mission as a board needs to be to protect our community, to protect people that visit our community first and foremost. And I like that the budget has that put in there. So for me, new treasurer, new board member, that's going to be my focus. What is going to make me safer, people that visit here safer, and all of you guys safer? And that's where I'll focus my attention on spend. So thank you for the question.
I'll take a stab at addressing it. Also, having been thrown into kind of the position and developing priorities on the fly, priority in my mind was flat and level flight and avoid hitting anything. So I think we're achieving that with a budget that is under, the operations part of the budget is under and within our expected revenue. So we're avoiding any obstacles and we're trying to get ourselves up and moving and keeping things under control in this one budget cycle was my goal.
I would echo that. I think it should be immediately obvious to everyone sitting in this room that as we were beginning the budget cycle, there was significant turmoil on this board and in this department. And it would be very important for us to make sure that we got into the next year. And the smart way to do that is, what did we do last year? We had a lot of turnover. Everyone sitting on this board was new. Everyone up here right now is new, right? And we had lost 2 board members, we had lost a chief, and we needed to figure out how to quickly make sure that our department kept running properly to keep people safe. I had enough faith in the previous boards that they knew what they were doing when they established their prior budgets. And when we first had that presentation, I think you were getting into a lot of detail, Chris. And what did I ask you? I asked you, what's different from last year? And tell me why.
10% for inflation.
Because because I thought that there was good direction up here. So I did not feel like we needed to make a drastic change in the middle of a lot of turmoil. I wouldn't think that that would be a prudent thing to do. Personally, with 2 more years to be able to serve my community on this board, I have talked about things that would be priorities to me. And I've talked about things that I would love to fund. I believe that the idea of upgrading our stations to have shift workers, to attract resident firefighters. And I don't know how many times I've had to say it, like we've talked about, do we join a different district? Do we raise our taxes to be able to fund, in-district resident firefighters? Or do we do the status quo? That question has not changed from the very first time that I sat here. And I'd like us to take the time over the next year to start setting those priorities, hashing those out as a board, and figuring out how we can best serve our community. I do think we're going to have another election in a few months, and we'll see with who's going to be put on that next board. And that might also express the priorities of our community about where we want to go. And we need to reflect that as a board. So those are my comments there.
Anybody else?
Oh, we got to keep this budget on track, so it's not written in stone. So you just got to spend the money where necessary. As far as getting the station one cleaned up, it's probably a big thing, especially if you get help from Terry in the auxiliary. And that one made a big improvement. I hear it's a disaster. I haven't been in there in years. So we've got to concentrate on our most valuable assets. That's our volunteers. And we've got to get volunteers that live in the community, and that will increase your response time, because a lot of times the call's right next door. You got a radio, you're there. You know what to bring in. So most valuable assets, what I'm after, that's the volunteers living in the community. Talk to your neighbors, we need them.
Yeah.
I did 30 years and more.
Terry?
I have one more question about the budget. I've spoken to many of you about this. I know that there is at least $10,000, if not $15,000 that we have taken from new builds in the district for a water fund or a cistern fund, for lack of a term there. And it's not in the budget. I know it's in the savings, but with the transitions, the turnovers, the volunteer piece, isn't there something, not to put it in the budget, but maybe a cover sheet with your resolution of the intents of your budget to at least note it, so that everybody knows that there is 10,000 or 15,000, I think it may be 15,000 water fund for the district, so that this way, if whatever that water fund is, if it's a new pump, if it's a new cistern in one of the stations, a repair, but at least that, because we have asked the community members that have built a home to put $5,000 into that water fund. I believe it should be stated somewhere that is still considered. And
Do you know who we've asked for that? Who's given that?
Well, let's just,
Let's not do anything. That's an assumption that I just heard from Terry. I want to know if that's true. Who's
Yeah.
put 5,000, 10,000, 15,000?
at least 2 homeowners, and I believe about time, but can you give
Yeah.
me some comfort that there was a water fund that we ended up putting into the general fund with my opposition at the time? And again, it was about 3 years ago, Dave.
That's correct.
Thank
It
you.
had been carried not so much in the budget, but in the balance sheet
right.
as a separate fund.
Mhm.
And since the funds physically were commingled and we really operated as a single general fund, the accountant said that wasn't doing for us. So
Right, but when we asked.
there were 10,000 contributions.
Thank you.
That were earmarked for that.
And I think we may have taken in one more $5,000 fund. In other words, the homeowners had an option between the sprinkler system, the cistern fund, or whatever else was going on at the time. But to me, if I was a homeowner and I built my home and the chief came and told me, well, you could do these 3 options to comply, and I gave $5,000 into a water fund, and I did not see it going into a water fund, it's a problem. So anyway, I'm done with that.
Yeah, it needs to be clarified, so it's not a hidden item.
But that's because of accounting practices.
Was that?
That is because of accounting
An
practices.
accounting choice.
Yeah, a choice, and that's okay, but at
But that's
least your
okay, but-
statement
yeah.
on the front of your budget should say, you know, we do have X amount of dollars in here for a water fund. I know Timberline has a water fund, Netherlands has a water fund specifically listed on their budget. I just am curious why we don't have that anymore.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why, but I think, Chief Damien had said he wasn't doing that anymore. He had stopped that practice, and the idea of actually putting in a community cistern kind of became moot. It wasn't something we're going to be able to move forward with. I do think it's about the ledger is more where that money is, as opposed to, do we have a fund that we're going to put something towards? We don't have a line item to do anything with that. We are interviewing, for a new chief. And I think that's an opportunity for the new chief and, their lieutenants to come up with, hey, we have this, let's put it in a budget for next year. Or
Yes.
I don't know that we are ready to set a priority for that, but I do recognize.
Make a note, we'll make a note of it.
Right.
Yeah.
You guys are all volunteers, turnover.
In 3 years, no one's gonna know that it was.
Okay.
yeah.
I was able to pull it up in QuickBooks in a restricted fund line item for cisterns. And I have the transaction that shows the moved from being
Wow.
a separate liability into general fund.
Thank you.
Right.
The details.
How much was it when it was moved?
So on 12/31 of 2018, 10,000 was transitioned to the general fund as an amount, as a journal entry.
Okay, so we know
And
it's
I
there.
believe we may have taken one more before 2018, before Damien became our
Correct.
chief.
So on September
So it
11th,
could
of
be
2017.
15,000.
No, on September 11th of 2017, we received $5,000. On February 1st of 2018, we received $5,000. Those are the $10,000 that I show accounted
Would you
for.
see anything else after it would put it into the general funds? Would you know?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
Okay. So
But at least the $10,000 you
Is
confirmed. that. Thank you.
100% accounted for.
I
Okay,
just like it noted somewhere, so with the new volunteers,
we'll address it.
thank you.
Merit.
To Terry's point, in terms of historical information for all new board,
Thank you.
some years back, I informed the board that when the conservation easement was placed on my property, I boxed off a piece of land on Douglas Mountain Drive near the top, which is specifically designated for a community system.
Really?
There's no money behind it, but that piece of land can be used without having to go through exemptions of the easement and blah, blah, blah. It's, so, just. so
Do I
you know.
understand correctly, Martha? You say you have some land that you will allow the community cistern to be built on,
Correct.
on your land?
Yep.
And you would give access and easement to that in perpetuity to the fire district?
It's right on the
Already
road.
did it.
So it's already, there
It's
is
already got it.
We might have done it, but I never heard about it before.
Well,
Till
it was
tonight.
presented to the board,
Mhm.
probably in 2017.
I remember something.
And it's right on the side of the
Thank you.
road, huh?
Yeah.
That's
Isn't there another
awesome.
cistern right there that's 15,000 gallons at the Coyote Spur or Doggy Spur turnoff?
That's a long ways away.
Is it a long ways?
Yeah, wait.
2 or 3 miles.
Yeah.
Wow.
She's right past the printer's property.
Yeah,
No, you're by the doghouse with the dolls. on top.
yeah, like Alan, she's right next door to
There
There you
Alan.
go.
I would have to look at the map.
It's
I
awesome.
can't remember exactly where the spot is, but there is a corner right there at the turnoff to our private road and Douglas Mountain Drive. That's not even inside of a fence.
Wow,
And
you may be getting a phone call.
Are there other cisterns in the neighborhood?
there's one at my neighbor's house, Eve Perron, just a half mile from my place.
a private
There's
cistern
one
or a
at,
community?
what used to be the Laniers. Yeah, there's no community system, but they're private.
I think there are lots of private cisterns.
Yes, there are. They're all mapped.
I can name off about 10 cisterns up on the dog patch.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
My
May I
father
make a-
has one on our property.
Yeah.
Yep.
Don't know if it's dry, but I still.
Yeah, may I make a suggestion? Meredith, if you could provide them with a map and the location, and maybe we discuss it next year.
Yeah, I'll do
But at
that.
least you guys are aware of it as new
That's really
volunteer
awesome.
board members.
Thank you.
Okay,
If you can send
thank you.
me like the drawings or documentation or anything like that, I may sketch something up quickly
Wow.
on board.
Thank you, Meredith.
That's what he
Got
does.
options.
That's-
Very
I
good.
got the CAD software.
Chris's face lit up.
Dave,
I do want to just
Engineering
mention,
work, that's
we do
fine.
have another agenda item tonight
Yeah.
too, and I just want to make sure that we
Move
try
forward,
and-
but
well,
Dave had
Dave's
a-
got, yeah, I want to make sure we're keeping it directly
Let's-
germane on the budget.
Quick question, with budgetary implications. Chris, you mentioned we recognize the low likelihood of $125,000 grant for Station 1 remodel. Do we know what the final status of that grant is? Wasn't that supposed to be ruled on by the end of the year here?
He said it
It
wasn't,
wasn't submitted.
wasn't
Yeah,
passed.
I think the decision was made not to submit the application, knowing that we would be told no. I think that was the choice that was in that cycle in preparation for a mid-23 reapplication, once we had time to get the additional details on solar or whatever other components that would add points to the scoring.
Thought I saw some paperwork to the effect that it had been submitted and completed. In case there is a communication, chain of command lapse, that kind of stuff, maybe we just make a to-do item to follow up with whoever got that submission. I'd hate for us to have an award sitting someplace and it's not.
Oh, we would have been told, I'm sure.
No, you can't
I
count on
can,
anything.
I
Thank
will
you,
double
Dave.
check to verify that because I believe Chief At was the contact address that was listed, so.
Moving ahead, are we ready?
Any additional comment? There's no one on the phone, so.
Is this still public comment?
Yeah,
Sure.
sure.
Um,
On the budget.
On the budget.
You got on the 16th or anything else?
I'm addressing a comment that was made during this period. In the last 15 minutes, I have heard the new board member statement, and I would like to say that two of the board members have been board members before.
True.
That would be Steve and Dave Primer. Dave Primer was a board president and has been to more board meetings than anybody in this room and served for 30 years besides. So this statement of new board members should be greeted with a sense of humor. Thank you.
I only meant that in the context of
Of
he
new,
just showed up.
yes,
This current board.
yeah.
Me too.
So,
Okay.
Thank you.
That's all. I'm sorry. Yeah.
But
Thanks,
I mean,
Garrett.
We have some very good board members, all of you, I think, are.
Yes.
Okay, and
It's
a
new,
couple
there's
of
new.
board members are certainly not in the category of novice. in
We're
this.
still rookies.
Yeah.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment.
Do we want to move on to, are we ready to
I
move
would
on?
move that we vote to approve the budget as it stands, as presented to the community.
Second.
Call for opposition, is that what I do?
I
Just call for vote.
Just call for a vote.
I would call for a vote.
I'm trying to learn from you, Chris.
On this matter, I recommend.
I
It's
did, yeah.
procedural, do it by unanimous
Okay.
consent, but this is
Um,
not.
We have a motion and a second to approve the budget. I'll call for a vote. All in favor?
Right.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, unanimously passed.
So you're gonna sign it, pass it over, and I'll sign that too. There's two places you have to sign it, and I have to sign it.
Do
You should
we
probably
read-
do it now.
Okay, wait. We have these resolutions. Am I supposed to read them?
No.
No.
Are they
You're gonna read
posted-
all this?
Are they posted publicly?
They should have been.
I believe they are.
We
I'm
just
trying to-
got the resolutions. They have not, there wasn't time to
They're
post
not on
them.
the website right now.
No, they're not. the ink isn't even
Would you
dry.
like me to read them?
Yeah, read them into the record, just so that we
Yes,
cross
Without,
the i's.
without objection, I'd like to read into the record the resolution to adopt the budget.
Right.
Okay, Golden Gate Golden Gate Fire Protection District resolution to adopt budget. Whereas the Board of Directors Board of Golden Gate Fire Protection District has appointed a budget committee to prepare and submit a proposed 2023 budget to the board at the proper time. And whereas such budget committee has submitted the proposed budget to the board for its consideration. And whereas upon due proper notice published in accordance with law, the budget was open for inspection by the public at a designated place, and a public hearing was held on this 8 December 2022. Interested electors were given the opportunity to file or register any objections to the budget. And whereas the budget has been prepared to comply with all terms, limitations, and exemptions, including but not limited to enterprise reserve transfer and expenditure exemptions under Article 10, Section 20 of Colorado Constitution, Tabor, and other laws or obligations which are applicable to or binding upon the district. And whereas whatever decreases may have been made in the revenues, like decreases were made to the expenditures so that the budget remains in balance as required by law, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of Golden Gate Fire Protection District, the estimated expenditures for each fund are as follows: General Fund $238,934. The estimated revenues are as follows: General Fund from unappropriated surpluses $400,528. From sources other than general property tax $45655. The general property tax $193,274, totaling $639,457. The budget as submitted, amended, and herein summarized by Fund B and same hereby is approved and adopted as the budget for the Golden Gate Fire Protection District for the 2023 fiscal year. That the budget is hereby approved and adopted shall be certified by the treasurer and or president of the district to all appropriate agencies as made a part of the public record of the district. To set mill levies, whereas the amount of money from property taxes necessary to balance the budget for general operating expenses is $193,274. And whereas the 2022 net valuation of assessment of the district as certified by the county assessor is $214,367,83. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Electors of Golden Gate Fire Protection District that for the purposes of meeting all general operating expenses of the district during the 2023 budget year, there's hereby levied a property tax of 9.016 mils upon each dollar of the total valuation for assessment of all taxable properties within the district to raise $193,274. That the treasurer and or president of the district is hereby authorized and directed to immediately certify to the county commissioners of Lake County, Colorado, the mill levies for the
Oh, that's an error. Yeah.
Which
That's an error from the attorney.
Not Lake County.
Just cross it out.
Cross it out and can you guys want to initial it?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I'm gonna let you do that.
Okay, I'm doing it on my copy.
You're doing it on your copy?
Okay, and that is here.
Oh, my gosh. So just cross it out.
I read this and did not catch that earlier.
Commissioners of
Right. We're doing well.
Jefferson County, so just.
Not the eye. Yeah.
Okay, initial,
Yes.
okay.
And then I want to each initial that, I think.
What is their number at
$639,000 and $457, that one.
Yeah.
That is the total fund, so unappropriated surpluses, that's our cash on hand, I believe. Other, for the sources other than general property tax, that's $45,000, that's the other sources of revenue. And then the specific to the property tax, $193,000. So the idea is we're gonna continue to have our current money in the bank, of the less $20,000, plus 193 raised from revenue this year. Is that, no? You're
If you're gonna be okay, but I'll let it go. But it just feels odd that that's a number that doesn't show up anywhere.
So if you look on the estimated ending fund balance, the very last line item, that is the $400,528. It says 27.9. That's that.
I'm comfortable with that.
Yep. And then we're adding $193,274 in revenue. Plus the 45655, which was the other revenues at the top. What is that? 4, 5, 6. So there's specific ownership tax is 13,000. Tax exemption state payment is 6,000. There should be a couple other revenues. Transfer from reserves. Is that right?
Yeah.
20,455.
Yeah,
The sum of those.
Profit 233, 934.
400.
Yep.
233 plus 400.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
Why?
no, that's why you're here.
More importantly, we're okay with it. if You're okay. with it.
Yes.
Thank you for-
A big part of it that might be confusing is at the beginning fund balance and ending fund balance proposed for twins year and now.
Okay, the mill levies for the district are here and above, determined and set or as adjusted if necessary upon receipt of the final December certification evaluation from the county assessor in order to comply with any applicable revenue and other budgetary limits to appropriate sums of money. Whereas the Board of Directors of Golden Gate Fire Protection District has Golden Gate Fire Protection District. Did I say Canyon? I keep on feeling like I say Golden Gate Canyon Fire.
You said it correctly.
Okay, sorry. Golden Gate Fire Protection District has made provisions in the budget for revenues in an amount equal to the total proposed expenditures as set forth therein. And whereas it is not only required by law, but also necessary to appropriate the revenues provided in the budget to and for the purposes described below as more fully set forth in the budget, including any interfund transfers listed therein, so as not to impair the operations of the district. Now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Directors of the Golden Gate Fire Protection District, the following sums are hereby appropriated from the revenues of each fund to each fund for the purposes stated in the budget. General Fund, $238,934. Adopted this 8th day of December, 2022, Golden Gate Fire Protection District.
We'd be here another hour if I was in here. Thank you. Okay, they spelled my name wrong, but I'm gonna,
I got my name incorrect. in all sorts of people.
yeah. Okay, am I gonna keep it?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. I'm gonna keep a copy. You've got a copy. No, I haven't signed.
I don't sign copies. Sign copies, submit them to the county, take them down to the clerk, hand them to them, make Xeroxes if you want. You want me to do that?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're the budget guy, so
I've
you,
got till what, first year?
you have, yeah. You raised your hand, okay,
You both
that's.
sign each copy?
Okay, and for signatures also, I don't think these need to be read. We've got a certification of the budget, Steve.
Yep.
I
There's
just
two other things we have to do.
Okay, I just need to sign that.
Well, we need to certify the mill levy, it's called a certification of tax levies for non-school governments. We need to do
Well, where
that
do you
and
wanna do them?
certification of the budget.
Okay.
So here's that one. It's just either one, do the same.
Okay, so you want to read it or just sign it?
Yeah, go ahead.
Read it into the.
Certification of budget. So without objection, I would like to read in the record the certification of budget. No objection. So certification of budget to the Division of Local Government. This is certified the budget attached here too is a true and accurate copy of the budget of the Golden Gate Fire Protection District for the budget year ending December 31, 2023, as adopted on December 8, 2022. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and affixed the seal of Golden Gate Fire Protection District, Jefferson County, Colorado, this 8th day of December 22. We have the right county that time.
Yay, okay.
Nightmare. You know there's the ballot A on tonight? No? Okay, cool. Bye.
And you know what? Have fun reading this one, Miffy.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I need to read that one.
I don't think
Okay.
you
It
do,
just says affixed. so-
Certification of,
Right.
is that what you're looking
but
at?
certification, it's for the mill levy.
Okay, don't you want to read it?
I don't think it needs to be read.
Okay,
Well, no, I'll make a general statement about it.
okay,
There's $21,436,783 worth of assessed value in the county. That's assessed value. It's not in the county, in our district. And then as per our 9.016 mill levy, we're certifying that all is that's what we want and approve. It equals 193,274 in tax dollars. And it requires Deborah Curley to sign this for the county to submit that money to us. So that's what this is for, because the county collects it from the property taxes, and then they send it to us and charge us for it, of course, for handling it. What, about $2,000 or $4,000 or something they charge to handle that money? But here you go, Deb. You want to sign that one?
Yep.
You got that one, okay.
It has a posted chair. I don't know.
They do a follow-up assessment after the September initial.
This
They
is
did
from
it in
yesterday.
December.
This is a big holdup. Only got it yesterday. The
That's
total
signed.
assessed
You
value.
want me to sign your copy too, or?
Yeah, I'd rather just sign this one, exactly, because this is the one that's all stapled together. And it's easiest for me to keep track of. I'll just hand that to the county, although this would work too. Don't forget the daytime phone number it says in there.
Oh,
You just give me that 21,000,000 what, 800?
One moment, I'll tell you again. 21,000,000. 21 comma 436 comma 783.
Yes.
These go to the clerk and recorder, right? Not the assessor.
I have that on that list that.
Is it? Do
Nikki
you
sent.
remember, Dave, or you have it?
I gave you that piece of
Says
paper.
You
that
might have,
tells
but I'm
you-
asking
It
again.
says
Tells
who
you
it
what
goes
to
to,
do.
it's on there.
Resolutions go to the county and.
Yeah, but clerk and recorder, because it's, or the assessor, do you think? You go to the treasurer's office?
See, it's,
Sure.
I'm pretty sure it's on the document. I think.
It's on the document. It tells you what to do.
Yeah, well, I don't have the
I've got
document in
two
my hand,
copies.
so that's why I was asking.
No, you have it in your hand.
I do?
Yes,
Okay.
and we'll just make sure.
Because this one doesn't.
Okay. Hello?
It's all right. I'll figure it out. It doesn't say on that one.
To Division of Local, is that, this one goes to DOLA?
No, that's Division of Local Affairs. That's not the same. They go to the county clerk. Don't worry, it's all in the same building. I'll get them in the right place.
I gave you that piece of paper. with
Just
your
thought somebody knew right
instructions.
now, but I'll make sure.
You'll
it goes
figure it
in
out.
place.
You, thank,
I'll
Steve,
even get a receipt.
Steve has done great. I think you may have
Thank
two
you.
copies of everything, so
Yeah.
you want to hold on to them or we'll file them?
With some blank checks to sign for me. Wow, that's Chris. No, I'm all good.
You're
Everything's
good?
good.
Okay, you want to keep everything?
Yeah.
Okay,
You want a copy? I'll give you a copy. Keep in the records.
that's, okay.
We would very much like that.
So give me back, you've got, I signed,
You can have that one. You sign it. You could have made another one. Here's mine.
I thought you have to file all of these papers. I don't think you can retain any. There's a point of signing and countersigning them twice.
Here's one that I signed for this one.
okay,
And that's the only one you
you've
need.
got two complete sets,
So you can put that, you can sign that and have it
Yes.
as original.
right?
For the district. Okay. Niffy, I didn't hear what you were saying, so.
It was my understanding that you needed to submit both copies
No,
as originals.
one.
No, just one.
What both copies, meaning, what do you mean when you say that?
no, you just need to take your
The
signed
file,
copies,
right,
yeah.
one copy, original.
I've got a
copy.
copy for the office
Okay.
We could always make new copies
for the
anytime.
future, so we have something to look back at.
Right. We're just making sure they collect the right amount of taxes and send them to us. You don't do it, the commissioners do what they want. I don't know how they do it. but-
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Green, thank you, Chief,
Thank you,
and
Dave.
thank you, Mr. Kennard, Dr. Kennard. Moving on our brief agenda, Steve is going to talk again about progress on the procedures for
Revoting,
recalling or
Revoting.
revoting or rescinding ballot A,
revoting,
revoting.
ballot issue A. Whatever the community wants. There's people in the community who want to see that revoted. So, and that is pretty much sums it up right there. We could give you that doesn't mean anything's being really, it would give who makes a decision back to the community members versus a 5-person board. Ghastly silence in here.
Just on the comment, I don't believe we're re-voting on ballot issue A, we're voting to rescind ballot issue A, so we're not
gotta
re-voting, we're
be.
voting on a whole new
Could be.
resolution. So I don't know that procedurally, are we,
I
it's not a
wouldn't
re-vote.
characterize it as a.
Well, this is what we're doing. this is tonight, this is my only thing tonight, is we want to get the board, I would like the board to approve it going forward. It's not an approval to do one thing or another, but we can't go forward without board approval. Because in order to go forward, we need to consult with Mickey. Mickey is the paralegal who handles some of the more legal details of mill levies, budget preparation. And in order to go forward, we need to get the wording looked at and know the dates. It's quite simple to go forward, but if we wait too much longer, it's really simple because the wording exists already from the previous resolution, which took place in November of 2018. And there's a slight rearrangement to those words if you use rescinding or revoting. I don't know which is a better word. So you might be right.
I think it's rescind. That
Maybe.
means it goes away. That's
So it does take, because myself, I don't want to work on this. If you all say, no, I'm not going to do this. I don't have the power to do this on my own. So
There are ways to
board-
get stuff on a ballot on your own.
See,
There are methods to, but
well, then I would like this board to go on record that they're not going to do it.
not gonna do what?
Go forward with the vote. Go forward to putting it on the next election.
Well, where is that coming from? I'm sorry, like, yeah, okay.
Okay,
Take a breath,
I'd like to
take a
comment.
breath.
Ballot A should be reviewed, it should be addressed, it should be rescinded, we should rewrite it, we should formulate some new resolution. No board in and of itself should have the ability to just raise taxes without community input. I would also say that if the community elected to accept ballot A, then the community did say the board should have that. However, my opinion is, I agree with you that in regards to mill levy increases and or decreases, the community should have their voice anytime that's proposed. So I am behind you as a board member in pursuing this. My questions and the things that I would want to understand, if we're pushing this to be on a May 23rd ballot, what is our timing? What is our cost? Do we have the ability to do this effectively and correctly in that small amount of time? And so my only challenges are not to addressing the issue of ballot A, but more so the procedural processes and if we're going to be able to do it correctly. So that's the questions that I would have. for
Okay.
you.
Now, to get moving on this correctly, or the way you'd like to, and the same as the way I'd like to, because it's the only way, we need to have the board approved moving forward.
Well, I don't think we need to have the board approve moving forward to figure out what are the date, like, I think we talked about this the last
It
meeting.
costs money to know all this.
It costs
because I
money to
have to
know
cons-
what dates we have to submit things
I have
by.
to talk to the paralegal. I on my own do not know the dates. They sent me some dates, but I would like to have it approved by the board that they can review the wording. You guys can review.
I'm
the
not talking
wording,
about
too.
reviewing the wording.
It has to be done. It starts in January. It has to be put forward in January. And I think it's some sort of a request that it goes onto the ballot. I don't know if that's an official name.
We have an election in May anyway.
That's
This will be
correct.
piggybacked on our board election. That correct, Linda?
Initially, this was a special election in 2018. There was nothing else on the ballot other than this. This time, there is another election. So it's an opportunity coming up to do this without a major expense, because the major expense will already be there.
Well, there will still be an expense. Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah.
There still will be some
It
expense.
won't be an added expense.
It will
It'll
be that. There, I don't think there's any way that this will be the same as just running.
No, it could cost another $1,000. That's what I would suspect. Maybe even 2,000, but it wouldn't cost 8,000.
My request, as we review this issue, and I think that we've learned tonight a couple of things, and we've learned recently as a board. For instance, we're now having a special meeting tonight because we recently learned that we missed some timing for filing for the budget to be presented to the public, et cetera. So
Wait, I don't believe that's the case.
Then
I don't want
just,
that to go
then
on.
let it
fair
slide.
enough, fair enough. Regardless of why we're here tonight or any other thing, if we're going to have an issue put onto a ballot that's going to be voted for on May 23rd, there are certainly deadlines.
Third.
Third, excuse me, thank you. There are certainly things that have to be filed. They have to be publicly posted. They have to be publicly commented on. The wording, at what time does the wording of the resolution have to be exact? So the question is, yes, we want, as a board, I believe, to pursue this, but do we have time to do this now?
Well, Chris, I had already put this forward. I haven't gotten anything back from you since October.
Chris, sorry.
And everybody else, no, let me have my
Hold on,
time.
Steve, I don't think anybody, I really want you to understand here. I don't think anybody up here is arguing about doing this. What I am asking for, and I feel like Chris is asking for as well, is, and I think I asked this at the last meeting, about gate steps,
What?
gating steps. What are the dates? Dates, well,
Dates.
gating steps,
Okay.
or like there are things that you have to do. If, so you have a timeline. So the election is on this date. You have to work back to, when do we have something approved? When is it reviewed by some, like
So
those
let me
are,
answer you instead of telling me, Nicky, let me answer you.
okay, I've just, that's what I asked.
I
from the
brought
very
this up in
beginning.
October. I said, let's put this in the newsletter so we can begin discussion. I didn't get anything back from anybody. Except from Julie and the chief.
Steve, you're actually not answering the question. The
Well,
question
that was
is.
the beginning.
No,
So let me
no,
answer
that's
the
not
question.
beginning. The question is work from the
We
end
will have,
backwards.
we will put it in the agenda for discussion. We can hold a special meeting to discuss it with the community.
Is any of that required by law to put this on the ballot?
Directors.
I don't believe so.
I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to help you get this on the ballot, and what is actually required by law and by when in order to get something on the ballot? And I've been asking for, like, that's all I'm asking.
Mickey, the paralegal, said you can start on this in January and February. However, I wanted to get the board to agree that it's something we want to go forward with.
You're not answering the question.
And we will, I think I am, but you tell me why I'm not.
I have a.
Is there a different way to ask it?
Maybe. Okay, first off, I'll iterate. We want to support this. We want to see this happen. If it's now, or if it's in the next general election, I'm not certain if that's the right term. We want to see this happen. We want to see it happen correctly, and so that there are no objections to it in the future. There will absolutely be the need for filing, for stating our intent to get it onto a ballot that is going to be approved. All we want to know is what are the milestones that we have to meet, so that, and the cost in order to meet those, so that we can decide if that's something that we should take on right this second, today. We want to do this, and we want to support your efforts to do this.
This kind of reminds me of, well, we have to pass it to see what's in it.
I don't think so.
Conversation. This is what I'm hearing from you guys.
Well, I think what you're, okay.
That's what I'm hearing.
Fair.
So I think we need to ask the paralegal, which I have asked very briefly.
Mhm.
And we need to have them go over, and Linda, you're welcome to say anything you want to, but I have, because I've been in touch with the paralegal on the budget, I asked them if they can do elections, and they said yes. And they said, what do you want to do? And I gave them an idea. And they said, yeah, we can absolutely do that. And they said that the deadlines for this are in January and February. They have to be given to the designated election official, has to be involved. Most likely we'll use
When?
as soon as in January, most likely. Pretty
We're
sure
not
the end
professional
of January.
specific dates, But what I would be asking for in January, what action is required by the board? In February, you said there's a second date. I'm not pressing you to name the dates right now. If you could present a plan that shows us by January X, the board needs to do Y. By February X, the board needs to present Y. The reason that, and also, I think if the paralegal is going to review this, what is our cost implication? Here's why I ask these questions, just so that you understand. The issue that we're trying to resolve is whether any individual board can raise mill levy rates without going back out to the community.
We have resolved that already
Well,
with a legal
We
opinion.
feel like we have. That's why we feel like we need to, like, actually, so one of the biggest questions was, like, does this even matter anymore? Because Gallagher's overturned. We were told it still is in effect, even though Gallagher's overturned. So does it make sense that we have this issue on our district where it's completely moot, but somehow we are still able as a board?
It's not
to
completely
bring-
moot.
Steve, I am so trying to help you. Please help me help you. Okay?
You're right on that. I'm sorry.
So
Go
it's,
ahead, Linda. I was just gonna say, I think the first step before we can even answer these questions is to meet with the paralegal and discuss that with her.
I don't think we need to meet.
No, you can get that information. We're meeting again on the 15th, Steve. Bring back the
Yes,
dates and,
Having performed about 10 minutes of research, I have the 2023 regular election calendar from DOLA for the Tuesday, May 2, 2023 election. At the November through January board meetings, at one of those board meetings, the board must adopt an election resolution appointing a designated elected official or designated election official. Board must obtain by
What was the
December
date?
between November and January, right, at the board meetings of November through January. So at the January board meeting, board must adopt an election resolution. Candidates may start to submit self-nominations beginning January 1. Call for nominations January 23 through February 16 is when they must be published.
Chief, just a quick question.
Please.
I've reviewed that as well.
Yeah.
I believe that is for nominations for board
It doesn't talk
positions.
about-
I have not, I have reviewed that document. I just haven't seen where there's a timing for presenting a resolution for the community to vote on.
Yeah, and I, you
Is that
know,
the same?
for,
It doesn't seem clear to me, like whether it says a resolution to have an election. Is that blanket? And that's what I've been trying to ask for your help on, Steve, is could you help us find those dates? And I don't know that we need to pay a paralegal. I'm just worried, I don't want to
You do.
incur costs. Why do we have to pay a paralegal to tell us?
Because if there's any problem, the whole thing is wasted effort. You need to have it done legally.
And that's exactly my point. What is it going to cost us to pursue this for a May, I believe you said 3rd? What is the cost going to be to the board to pursue that for a May 3rd vote? Because is that a necessary spend at this time?
Now, you weren't here, the last board approved all this. They didn't even have these conversations. So it's great that we are.
I agree.
However, we are having most likely an election. That's the predominant cost. That election is not on this. It's on 2 new board members that will occupy your seat and Dave's seat. They're up for election again. Our last election, unfortunately, cost us over $10,000. And it will most likely cost that again. And putting this in last time probably cost something close to that too.
So again, my question is, what will it cost us, this board, between now and May 3rd, to have a resolution to rescind, revote, to do any corrections on the ballot A measure? What is that going to cost?
I can only give you what I think is the estimate.
I'm not asking for specific numbers. I'm asking if at some point between now and our deadlines, our processes, that we have a more formalized plan so that we as a board can decide, yes, let's pursue it now. Because while we all agree that ballot A has issues, the community still has the ability to vote for elected officials that are either going to A, stand on raising taxes, B, keeping taxes as they are, or C, lowering taxes. Whether they vote for that in a public setting or not, that is an election that the community has the choice of elected officials that could to make that. So my only point.
You lost me there.
Okay,
Trust no one.
does this have to, if we can get this done in a cost-effective way between now and May 3rd,
What's that fine cost-effective way?
well,
I don't know.
they want to
We
know.
don't know how
the
much
cost.
it costs.
We've
I'll
said-
tell you what I think it will cost right now. I'll tell you.
I would like specific, okay.
I think the paralegal would probably cost about, to look at this and rewrite it. It's already written. All they have to do is tweak it
We
so
don't
that they
need
feel
to
it's
re-
good.
Sorry, we don't need to pay the paralegal to rewrite this.
We've already rewritten it. You've gotten a
Can
copy.
you just listen, please? What I'm trying to find out is, and I think Chris is also trying to find out is, can we even get this done in time?
Yes.
Yes, yes. we
Okay,
can.
so what are the dates that we need to do these specific actions to get this done in time?
He's going to have those dates on our next
Awesome.
meeting.
They're very similar to what they're the same as the dates Chris just read.
the key
No,
date.
they're different for a ballot,
The key
Terry.
date is March 3. That is when ballot content must be certified. I think that is when the language of the ballot must be finalized.
March.
March 3, 2023. Thank
Okay.
you.
There we
That is
go.
what it appears.
There we go.
That's what
In
we-
between
Okay.
now and March 3rd, we need to have a resolution that has been agreed on, approved, drafted, redrafted. I believe we have plenty of time to do that. The only other question would be, what does that cost us to do in the next election? Because we're gonna
Would
have
you
to.
like me to give you my educated guess?
Let me ask the question
Or no?
differently. At some point in between now, we should have a go, no-go decision that is based on cost.
Look,
We
Chris, you're
haven't-
asking for something that's never been able to be answered in the past, period. You're asking how much is an election gonna cost?
No,
We
just
didn't know, wait a
adding
second, let me
the ballot.
finish. We didn't know how much this last election that we just had for us to get elected was gonna cost. And
Understood.
we kept getting bills, kept rolling in. The last board didn't know what it was gonna cost exactly. It doesn't mean you can't have the election. If you have to know the exact cost within like $100, it won't happen. I can't give you that.
You've indicated that we should have all of this process reviewed by a paralegal so that it's done correctly. Can we please get an estimate from the paralegal on what it will cost us to have them review all documentation to be formally prepared for an election on May 3rd? I will agree that we may not ever be able to get an absolute estimation of what it's going to cost to add on to this election that will occur on May 23rd. If we can get an estimation. We spent a lot of time at the beginning of our meeting talking about budgets and our need to be very fiscally conservative. And I think that it's a good idea for us to understand if it's thousands of dollars.
I wouldn't go forward without understanding.
So all I'm asking for,
Do I have permission to go forward? There could be a bill associated with talking with me.
okay, if I need some, yes, you can move forward with doing some more due diligence so that we can understand what it is that we need to do this correctly and how much it's gonna cost us. to
Then
do
I
it.
would like to make a motion that the board vote that I can move forward
I'm not ready to have.
and
discussion on
investigate
that.
this.
I'm not gonna vote on that, or I will debate that. I don't think we've closed the discussion yet.
Jerry?
On ballot A, when we were doing that, we had an education special meeting, which all of these details were brought up and presented. That Dave of Kennard ran that meeting. He showed the costs, the timeline, the implications. He did everything that this board is now asking you to do in that special.
Where was that meeting at?
I actually sent a copy of it was here at the Grange. And I actually found a copy of Sam Patton's invite to that educational meeting for a potential ballot to be put on to the community. And so I would suggest.
But I would like to say something on this. Go ahead, I'll let you finish, but I have.
But I'm just saying that in that meeting is when Dave discussed the costs, the timeline, the implications, why we needed to do it, yada, yada. And then we were all educated as the public of why we needed to go forward with this. So I think what they're asking you right now, Steve, is exactly what this special meeting is, to educate, and they called it an educational meeting for ballot A. And I believe Sam Patton sent that, I think it was in 2000.
I have the postcard.
Yeah, they also sent out a flyer.
No, can I respond to what you just said?
Sure.
I was here at that meeting. It was in this room.
Yeah.
They didn't go over the cost of the election. They went over Gallagher and a lot of confusing numbers about Gallagher that nobody really understood.
Well, they discussed why we needed to do it and why.
They might-
We should go forward with ballot A. So I think what they're asking is very fair and it should be done in the public.
But it wasn't what happened at that meeting.
I
Terry.
don't want to argue about what happened at that meeting.
No,
I
it's-
want to talk about what we're going to do moving forward so that we can get this on the ballot. That's what I'd like to talk about.
I think there's time. I
You
think
have to
there's
get the
time.
wording
You have to get the wording
and we
and,
have to get a cost. Put it
and
on.
it's not a matter
And
of
we should
education.
hold some meetings here or a meeting.
I don't.
I don't think so.
You
We
don't
can.
need a meeting.
We
It's
don't need to.
only to, it's basic. The language should
Very
have
basic.
ballot A on there and ask the public if they want to rescind it.
I agree with you, but they're asking for more complicated
No, I don't think
explanation.
we're
I'll
asking for that.
Okay, I'll simplify my request, okay? First off, I want to say that I'm in favor of exploring this and
We
rescinding,
have
correcting, doing whatever we need to do to validate. I'm simply asking for,
Just
as
check
best
it.
we can, a cost estimate on what it's going to cost us to accomplish that process and a timeline. I believe we've established that our timeline is March to have complete wording submitted for a ballot. I believe we can meet that. Let's understand the cost.
Then I would have to go even further, because I will have to talk to the designated election official who we have used for the past few elections. That's Sue Blair. She's gonna have a cost no matter whether this is on there or not. So I'll have to ask her, what will it cost in our upcoming election to add on a ballot initiative?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
perfect.
great. And the other, can we, I
We'll
do
discuss
think,
it
so we don't mess it up, I think you're right, we should maybe have a paralegal look at it. Can we ask the paralegal for an estimate of what it would
If
cost?
she
to-
charges by the hour, she can just see
Okay.
how many hours she thinks it's going to be done. Bring it
Very
back on
easy.
the
It's only 2 pages.
15.
And just, if I could just make one final comment on this. We've sat here tonight, we've read a resolution that had an error. We mentioned Lake County when it shouldn't have been there. These are the types of things that could cause all of our efforts to be invalidated. I've actually read comments from the community that ballot A, it's in question whether it's even enforceable for who knows, a multitude of reasons. So let's just work to do this correctly. So that way it's ironclad.
Yes, and may I add that you weren't here when Sheila Carlin came back from the attorney. And wasn't it Sheila who said
Yes, she
She
said that was
said
Vicky. She said it
it's
was
still in
valid.
that they can raise taxes for other reasons besides what it says?
To maintain, like, and I just want to be very clear, to maintain the revenue at the current level. That's the number one reason, and that I'm like, I don't know that this gives anyone power to really screw over me or my neighbors and raise taxes and go and do whatever they want. The intent was to only maintain it at the current level. I do think it is silly to have a ballot issue on our district that is tied to Gallagher and we ain't got any Gallagher. Doesn't make any sense to me. That's really where I come from on that. And we can talk later if we want to raise taxes, send it to the voters, et cetera. I'm with you. Sorry.
I see it right now, and it's only 3 or 4 people complaining about it. Yeah, thank you.
But it's
What
it's
was
possible,
that?
I think Sue Blair could probably also, maybe, Steve, hang on. So if you're talking to Sue Blair, she could probably give us, hey, here's your estimated cost for the election. Here's your estimated cost for adding this ballot issue. And then maybe she could also confirm for us exactly what date. So do we have to mention that we're gonna have a ballot issue when we do in January to adopt our election resolution? Do we have to say there's also gonna be a ballot issue on
Yeah,
it then?
find out
Like,
the
no?
procedure.
I just want to make sure.
I would suspect that when we make a resolution that we're gonna have an election,
Mhm.
because we probably have to make an official declaration that there's going to be an election, that it has to include what's on the ballot too.
So there are times for that to occur. And that's
Prior
all.
to the dates that Chris read,
Right.
but it's time to start. That's all.
So those are for people who want to cast
believe
their
it's the
name
same.
into a nomination pool for the board. So does the
It's the same,
resolution.
Chris.
Chris, I will say, as I read through this, there are specifics for publication of ballot material, ballot content, language for issues as well. So I believe that this is the same kind of master set of dates. I think the only critical path, the next critical path item that we are encountering is designation of the election official at either the December or January board meeting, regular board meetings.
And I believe if I've read that same thing correctly, it's up until February. Somebody can, if we don't have anyone step up to say, I'm running for the board, or
Right.
we don't have
We can't do
competing
election.
number of people, then we have no need for an election. So
That's true.
If they-
So that, my question still comes into this ballot resolution. Are we going to still be able to meet the timing? We should be preparing that we're going to have an election, but in the event that only the 2 of us say we're going to run for the board and we have nobody
opposition.
opposing us, and there's no need for an election.
I know.
Therefore, there's no reason for us to do this ballot.
Then we have a question, do we have election just for this?
And that's why I'm
And I don't know.
asking these questions about,
But I can't answer those. You'll have to answer them as a board.
So let's
No, we
prepare,
can't answer those
let's prepare
questions.
for the fact that we probably will have an election. And therefore, let's understand the timing and make certain that it's all synced up, because is there a go, no go process? If we are required to have an election after we submit a ballot initiative, and then we don't need an election, then we just invested in.
No, you can, if you've been here for other elections, you can cancel the elections if nobody's running.
We can cancel the election if
But
nobody's
without a
running,
ballot.
but if we've said we're already gonna put a ballot initiative out there, but the only reason we wanted to do the ballot initiative was to piggyback onto.
We will, I will ask those questions.
Ask, yeah.
But do I have permission to ask
Yes.
questions?
You don't
Yes.
need our permission to ask any questions.
Do I have permission to pay the bills?
What, we're not incurring any
There
costs.
might be, I don't know.
No,
You
you're
can't
just-
incur a cost to talk, to
Just
ask for an
ask
estimate.
her.
If anyone charges you for an estimate,
Not my experience.
okay.
She's gonna, and I already went through this with her. Approximately how many hours do you think this is gonna take?
Of her time?
Yes.
3.
No,
She'd
I
probably
think it's
charge
gonna be
more,
less
but-
than
Well,
that.
just ask
Oh,
her.
1 or 2.
You don't need our
Just
permission to
ask
ask
her.
someone, hey, how long would it take for you to review this? And I think Sue Blair, I don't know if we have to pay
Well,
her until the
Dippy,
election.
though, I don't want you to come back to me later and say, hey, look, there's a bill here for $250.
Steve,
So I just want you to know ahead of time, I'm giving you a heads up, I will ask you.
yes, you have
You
permission
will
to
ask her for an estimate of what it would take.
I will send her the.
and find
I'll
out
send her
all
wording,
the
so we
ins
wanna
and
make sure
outs
this
of
meets
adding
the-
a
No,
ballot.
we don't need to do that yet. That's not what we're asking to do.
We haven't approved the wording yet, so asking her
No.
to review a
I will
document,
send her the wording of the last resolution. Say we want to,
an estimate on if
we want
match.
this to go back to the citizens to vote on.
No, okay. I think what I'm trying to do is just say get an estimate of, if we're gonna put a ballot issue on the election, how much would it cost for you to review it for us?
I understand what you're saying, Niffy. Please,
Okay.
don't treat me like a child. But they want to see the words. They want to see the words. If I say a ballot initiative and it's just like this big, it's a big difference if it's 4 pages or 10 pages. They have to have an idea.
Can
So
you count the words, Steve, and tell her, we have something we want to rewrite?
it's just big.
1,500.
It's just big.
Just give,
Okay.
Can't I
just give
just send her
her,
that?
give her that.
Why can't I send her that, Niffy?
Because I don't approve of that
No.
language.
This is the language that's enacted
No,
by the last board.
no.
Yes.
Wait, sorry, I can't actually read that from here, so
Here it is.
that, is that
Yeah.
I have two
Yes.
documents.
I sent it to you today.
I have
This
the
is-
draft language that you sent,
That's it.
and then I have the
I
original
sent them
ballot
both.
issue.
That's the original ballot.
This is what's proposed. And this is the original.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so that's cool.
And I'd say we want
Okay,
to
we want to undo that. How much would it cost for you to tell us how to?
and
undo?
restore it to the way it used to be.
Sure.
This is his proposed language. This is- Okay. Everybody okay?
All good. Public comment.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. Anybody? Mary? Mary?
The whole board needs to know that the auxiliary is working on the awards banquet and that we're wrestling with locations and we're having all kinds of challenges with that. But you all would be invited to attend. It's going to be the first weekend of January. The auxiliary board does also get an invitation, however, we pay for our own dinners.
Yes,
So
we-
we are not using any of the monies that come in through donations for our meals. It's only for the firefighters and their guests, a guest.
Plus one.
They're
Plus one.
And I might recommend to you, the board, that perhaps you would not want to use the donated dollars for your
No.
meals, but that is something that you, the board, has to make your own decision about. Our board made the decision that we will pay for our own.
Is that
I'm
gonna
just sharing
require?
this with you so that you know, and the meal
First-
is probably going to be somewhere between $38 and $50
Can
per
I,
person.
just for clarification, when you say the first weekend in January, do you mean 6 or 7?
7th or
7 or
8th.
8.
7th or
We
8th.
haven't been today,
Okay.
and it will be
And
at
we'll,
night,
if we,
5 to 9-ish.
5 to 9-ish.
and if we want to come, we'll let you know. And do we need,
Invitations will be sent.
Invitations
You
will
can
come out with an
RSVP.
RSVP.
okay, Oh, great. Do we need to decide that we're gonna pay for ourselves if we choose to go, or we don't need a motion?
I don't know if we need I think we need a motion to decide to pay for it with public funds.
Yeah,
So I
okay.
just- I don't think we need-
That's not happening.
That's not-
Not happening.
I don't want that debate.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that I got criticized by our former chief for not showing up at the awards when I was never invited.
I received that as well, so. Yeah.
So thank you, Mary.
That was at the June award thing, right? Or some kind of June award they had.
Oh, that was at the graduation.
Yeah.
Oh,
If
yeah, it
there
was
are
some-
any
it was
events
something
that
I
it
was
makes
never-
sense for us to come to, please, you, the lieutenants, the new chief,
Please.
send us invites well ahead of time.
I'm
Yep.
coming.
Like I have a 2-year-old though, so like if you're like, hey, it's in 3 days, ain't happening. So, yeah.
Yeah, he's waiting for us to secure the location. He
Great,
already knows
thank
that there
you.
needs to be an invitation go out, but we are still
Thank you
fighting
for-
with them, trying to get the most value for the dollars that we collected as donations from the community.
Just so you know, when you come, bring your wallet.
Yeah.
Yeah, cash bar.
I offered to donate my services to save you money because I'm very experienced.
I doubt they'll allow
I mean, let me talk with you later. I have potentially a free venue, we could probably do this at my office. We have like a large open, it's not gonna be a fancy swanky thing, but I can also, I can order in catering so that we're not paying a fee to rent a space. Then we have
We need at
ostensibly,
least 50 people.
I can get 50
comfortably.
people seated
The problem
comfortably.
is the open bar.
We can have an open bar too. I have kegs and a bar at my office.
Can I come to work for you?
Yeah, really.
And,
Can I come visit you?
and tablecloths and tables and chairs.
I have tables and chairs for 50 people. They're not fancy chairs. They're
I don't
like,
think after 5 minutes of happy hour, they don't care what they sit in.
okay, I'm just, there are potential ways that we could do this. I mean, we could take these chairs down to have fancier chairs, if that was something we want to do. I've got white tablecloths. I've got table settings for 50. Like, there are ways that we can do this.
Who cleans up?
I'll have my cleaning crews take care of it. I would just ask that we I'll maybe go down in the morning, as long as it's Sunday afternoon. I can at least get stuff in the dishwashers
I can
and
help.
so,
I can
yeah.
help.
Location.
It's at Course Tech basically, so McIntyre and like, yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Fairmount's
So-
district,
And,
not ours.
and what kind of catering do you do?
I can find we could like, if we ordered in catering versus like
Yeah.
going to a restaurant, we're gonna pay a lot less per plate.
Yep.
Like, I promise you.
Maybe
Yeah,
Mary could come and look at this.
yeah,
Come and look.
State buffet of some kind. Usually it would be a reasonable price. for
Yes.
sure.
I mean, we have meetings at my office where we have 100 people come in and we do big buffet line. It can be done. I think it's not gonna be fancy. I'm just saying, like, but if we're getting crazy prices by getting quotes, then we can look at, yeah.
Well, they're wanting to charge from 23 to 40% service and gratuity.
That's getting a little up there. It used to be 30%. The 40% is a little absurd. There's also another option is golf club that I have access to that we could probably host
You
there
go
as well.
back to where we went last year to Applewood Golf. And-
Okay.
And, their price was reasonable for it. It wasn't,
But do they charge you a venue fee?
no,
So, okay, well, that's the big thing is the
There's no
venue
venue
fees and
fee
I
at
can
any of
get
the
free
places that
venue
we-
fees.
no venue
Okay.
fees at any of the places, as long as we have basic food and beverage amount.
Okay.
We get that always. We can always get that. We had never shorted them on that.
Okay.
I can guarantee that. So.
Thank you, Ricky.
Well,
Yeah,
I'll-
thank you.
Well, it's something to look into, so, yeah. I move to adjourn the meeting. We have nothing else, right?
I just want to announce the meeting is on the 15th at 7 o'clock at station number 2. That'll be the last one of the year. It should be very, hopefully brief. And move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
Can I ask something real
Yes.
quick?
Oh, sorry.
I know we like to do station 1, station 2, the Grange, so
yeah.
everybody gets a feel of whatever. But the big thing was we didn't have internet. We have internet, we have space,
Right.
it's comfortable. we're not with trucks. Is there a reason we can't continue the meetings here?
I was gonna say maybe, and I guess we could deal with it right now. And for the winter months, we meet here. When, because it's easier to get to.
It depends on who you are, I think. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's not easier for me, but I'm
Yeah.
not a member of your
That's-
board.
yeah, okay.
It is over on mine.
Which is the easiest? 81 for you? No.
Well, but I'm.
No, it's for the whole community. To me, it's the
Community,
community.
yeah. No, I
Yeah.
just was curious.
Community center
Right.
Yeah,
range.
But our
So,
community goes all the way out to 119.
I understand that,
So-
but if I lived there and I wanted to be a part, I would travel my happy fuzzy butt over here. But I'm just saying, the stations are not big. We didn't have much today,
yeah, but
but we have had 20 people at Station 1.
That doesn't
And
work.
it's packed, it's crowded, people bump their head. I'm just saying,
yeah, we'll be working on next year's
the
schedule.
main thing with the last board was we didn't have internet. Well, by God, we have internet now, so
Right.
use us.
I'm not opposed to it. I literally live around the corner. This is like, so I'm like this, it was in my self-interest, taking 2 minutes to get here. I thought some of the thinking behind that was also, you get to Crawford, that helps bring in people there because it's close to their house. And you go up to Robinson Hill, there's a lot of people up there. So it's
Yeah.
helping to like, oh, if it's down the street for me, I'll go, sure.
Maybe we
Yeah.
could do all
Well, I
three.
guess I don't look at it that way. I look at it, if I'm interested, I go.
That's,
It's not.
Yeah.
I want people, I want to engage people. you
Yeah.
know?
You're
Yeah.
always welcome in other words.
It's adjourned.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we can talk
I-
about this
I
later. This is
just-
gonna be
yeah.
long
Okay.
minutes.
We're gonna be going, one of the things I'm working on is next year's schedule. So I'll add it to the agenda for the next meeting, just to see what people.
And yeah, we actually need to get that public comment. Sorry, let's just.
Yeah, I won't be here next meeting. I'll be out of town.
You're fired.
Yeah. Hello and goodbye. Meeting adjourned.
Thank
So
you.
we're at Station 2, is that where we are?
Yes,
today?
All in
station
favor?
2 on
Yes.
the 15th.
I second.